Comment down below what country and or city you're watching from. I'd love to hear from you guys. Also subscribe and like if you hate racial injustice. Alright, let's get to it. Ever have one of those days where you know, deep down in your bones, that the universe is just messing with you? Mine started with a stain the size of Texas on my favorite white t-shirt, courtesy of a rogue blueberry muffin. I figured, hey, no biggie, it added character. Little did I know that character would be my biggest liability in the upcoming hour. I was heading to court, not as a defendant, mind you, but as legal counsel. Lead counsel, actually, for a rather significant case. Now you might be picturing a sharp-suited, briefcase-wielding lawyer, all power, tie, and confident swagger. Instead, picture me, jeans, the aforementioned blueberry-stained t-shirt, and a backpack slung over my shoulder. I looked like I was about to miss the school bus, not argue a complex breach of contract case. I'm barely 19, eternally baby-faced, thanks, Mom, and black. Walking into that courtroom felt like stepping onto a movie set where I was clearly miscast. The whispers started immediately. The raised eyebrows, the smirks. I could practically hear the unspoken questions. Is he lost? Is this a bring your kid to work day? Did he wander in from the adjacent high school? The judge, a woman who looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole, peered down at me over her spectacles. Judge Thompson. Her reputation preceded her, notoriously tough, a stickler for procedure, and let's just say, subtly biased. I'd heard rumblings, whispers about her old-fashioned views. And by old-fashioned, I mean she probably thought segregation was a spirited debate topic. As I approached the bar, the opposing counsel, a man named Mr. Abernathy, a seasoned lawyer with a face like a well-worn leather shoe, gave me a patronizing smile. Are you here to observe, son? This might be a little advanced for your level. I simply returned a polite nod, resisting the urge to tell him that I'd probably forgotten more about contract law than he currently knew. Inside, however, a slow burn was starting. This wasn't just about my age. It was about the whole package, the clothes, the skin color, the audacity of a black kid strolling into their hallowed halls of justice. I knew I had to play this perfectly. My client, a small business owner who'd been royally screwed over, was depending on me. And I wasn't about to let him down, no matter how much the odds were stacked against me, starting with a biased white elder judge who thought this was a joke. This was going to be fun. The initial proceedings were a masterclass in subtle condescension. Judge Thompson addressed me with a voice usually reserved for scolding misbehaving pets. Mr. Henderson, is it? She asked, squinting at the case file as if she couldn't quite believe my name was actually on it. Are you aware of the proper attire expected in this court? I calmly explained that while I understood the decorum, my focus was on presenting the strongest possible case for my client. I made sure to address her as, Your Honor, at every possible opportunity to hammer in the message I belonged here despite what she thought. Her lips thinned. And you believe you are capable of doing so? The skepticism dripped from her tone like venom. With all due respect, Your Honor, I replied. I believe the strength of my arguments will speak for themselves. Mr. Abernathy, emboldened by the judge's attitude, chimed in with a chuckle. Perhaps Mr. Henderson would like a glass of milk and a coloring book to keep him occupied while the adults handle this. The courtroom tittered. I kept my expression neutral, my gaze unwavering. This was exactly what I wanted. Let them underestimate me. Let them see me as an inexperienced kid playing dress-up. It was the perfect camouflage. While they were busy judging my appearance, I was meticulously dissecting their case, anticipating their every move. I had spent weeks poring over the contract, identifying loopholes and inconsistencies they had conveniently overlooked. My brain, honed by years of accelerated learning and a photographic memory, was a legal arsenal waiting to be unleashed. The judge, clearly eager to move things along, fast-tracked through the preliminary formalities. She seemed determined to dismiss the case based on some obscure technicality, something that would have left my client high and dry. I stood and cleared my throat. Your Honor, if I may? She sighed dramatically. Very well, Mr. Henderson. But please be brief. I haven't got all day to listen to amateur legal theories. I smiled inwardly. Time to show them that this amateur knew exactly what he was doing. The game was on. I reached for my backpack, the one that probably solidified their image of me as an overgrown student, and pulled out a meticulously organized binder filled with evidence, legal precedents, and my own incisive analysis. I began by addressing the judge's proposed technicality, dismantling it piece by piece with a clarity and precision that seemed to catch her off guard. I cited relevant case law, quoting passages verbatim from memory. I pointed out flaws in the opposing counsel's interpretation of the contract, highlighting specific clauses and their implications with surgical accuracy. I could feel the atmosphere in the courtroom shifting. The smirks faded, replaced by expressions of surprise and grudging respect. Mr. Abernathy's face flushed a shade of puce as he realized that his nonchalant dismissal of me had been a grave error. Your Honor, I continued, my voice gaining confidence, the plaintiff's case rests on a misrepresentation of the facts and a deliberate attempt to exploit a vulnerable individual. I then proceeded to present a series of exhibits that irrefutably proved my client had been intentionally misled. I presented emails, financial records, and witness statements, all meticulously organized and clearly presented. Each piece of evidence was a nail in the coffin of the opposing side's argument. The judge, once so dismissive, now leaned forward, her eyes narrowed in concentration. She started scribbling furiously on her notepad, her initial prejudice slowly giving way to a grudging acknowledgement of my competence. Mr. Abernathy attempted to interject, but I swiftly deflected his attempts with counter-arguments that were both legally sound and devastatingly effective. He sputtered, flustered, his carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of my relentless logic. I felt the thrill of the courtroom battle, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I wasn't just defending my client. I was challenging the preconceived notions that had been thrust upon me from the moment I walked into that room. I was proving that age, appearance, and race were irrelevant when it came to intellect and the pursuit of justice. The blueberry stain on my t-shirt suddenly felt like a badge of honor. The turning point came when I introduced a previously undisclosed piece of evidence, a recorded phone conversation between the defendant and his associate, where they openly discussed their scheme to defraud my client. The recording was crystal clear, the voices unmistakable. It was the smoking gun. The courtroom gasped. Mr. Abernathy looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Judge Thompson stared at me, her expression unreadable. Mr. Henderson, she said, her voice now devoid of condescension, where did you obtain this recording? I calmly explained that I had received it anonymously from a source who had knowledge of the defendant's activities. I assured her that the recording was authentic and admissible under the relevant laws of evidence. The judge ordered a brief recess to review the recording and consult with her legal advisors. As I waited, I could feel the weight of the courtroom's gaze upon me. The whispers had returned, but this time they were filled with awe and admiration. Even Mr. Abernathy, looking utterly defeated, managed a grudging nod in my direction. During the recess, I overheard one of the court staff members say, "That kid is a prodigy. Where did he come from?" A small smile tugged at my lips. They had finally seen past the surface, past the t-shirt and the backpack, and recognized the intellect that lay beneath. When the judge returned, her demeanor had completely changed. She addressed me with respect, her tone professional and courteous. "Mr. Henderson," she said, "the court has reviewed the evidence you presented, including the recording. We find it to be highly compelling." She then proceeded to deliver a scathing indictment of the defendant's actions, emphasizing the egregious nature of his fraud. It quickly became clear that my careful planning, and the other side's prejudice, had worked in my favor. The judge ruled decisively in favor of my client, awarding him significant damages and ordering the defendant to pay all legal fees. The courtroom erupted in applause. My client, tears streaming down his face, rushed over to thank me, his gratitude overwhelming. "You saved me, son," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "You're a miracle worker." I simply smiled and patted him on the back. I was just doing my job, I replied. But inside I felt a surge of pride and satisfaction. I had not only won the case, I had shattered expectations and defied prejudice. As I gathered my belongings, preparing to leave the courtroom, Judge Thompson called me to the bench. I approached her with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Mr. Henderson," she said, her voice surprisingly warm, "I must admit I underestimated you. You are a remarkable young man and an exceptionally talented attorney. I sincerely apologize for my initial misjudgment." I accepted her apology graciously, sensing a genuine change of heart. Perhaps even old dogs can learn new tricks. "Thank you, Your Honor," I said. "I appreciate that." As I walked out of the courtroom, the whispers followed me, but this time they were filled with respect and admiration. People stopped me in the hallway to congratulate me, marveling at my age and my legal prowess. I even received a business card from a prestigious law firm, inviting me to consider joining their ranks. The blueberry stain on my t-shirt, now a faded memory, seemed to symbolize my triumph over adversity. I had walked into that courtroom as a perceived underdog, dismissed and underestimated. But I had emerged victorious, proving that brilliance can come in unexpected packages, and that prejudice is ultimately no match for intellect and determination. The aftermath of the trial was a whirlwind. News of my courtroom victory spread like wildfire, turning me into something of a local celebrity. My phone buzzed incessantly with interview requests, speaking invitations, and offers of mentorship from established legal professionals. I even got a call from a Hollywood producer interested in turning my story into a movie. I politely declined for now. But amidst all the attention, I remained grounded, focused on my clients and my commitment to justice. I understood that my success was not just about me, it was about inspiring others who had been underestimated or marginalized. I started volunteering at a local community center, offering free legal advice to those who couldn't afford it. I mentored young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, encouraging them to pursue their dreams, regardless of the obstacles they faced. I became an advocate for diversity and inclusion, speaking out against prejudice and discrimination in all its forms. My age and my race, once liabilities, had become assets, giving me a unique platform to effect positive change. As for Judge Thompson, she became an unexpected ally. She reached out to me, expressing her desire to learn more about unconscious bias and to promote greater fairness in the legal system. We had several frank and enlightening conversations, and I came to see her as a complex and evolving individual, capable of growth and self-reflection. My story is a reminder that first impressions can be deceiving, and that true brilliance often lies hidden beneath the surface. It's a story about overcoming prejudice, defying expectations, and using one's talents to make a difference in the world. And it all started with a blueberry muffin and a stained t-shirt. Who knew that a little bit of adversity could lead to so much good? And as I walked away from the courthouse, I smiled, because this was just the beginning of my journey and I intend to shock the world.